All right, so these drawings you mentioned are on Mylar, correct?
Yes.
And this is a material that you've used in the past and you really enjoyed using it. Why do you like Mylar?
Because from the beginning I have this interest to adding an extra dimension to my work, and that is the reason I started working with the plexiglass, because it allowed me to have the transparency. So with Mylar, this translucent finish is like in between, like it's not totally transparent, but it's not totally opaque. So I like that. And I like the text, the way the texture, because it's like a relative of the plexiglass or plexiglass or acrylic in general. The material I am more comfortable with.
Yeah, so it lives in this in-between space, right?
Exactly,
it's an in-between space, in between transparent and opaque.
Yeah.
It's also in between the acrylic and the paper.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not either.
Exactly.
But it's both.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
and that ambiguity is something that we see kind of come up again and again in your work.
Yeah.
When you're talking about home and our memories of home. Many times when we talk about home and when we think about artwork that takes on the idea of home, we think it can be, kind of nostalgic and sweet, and yet you don't mind kind of going into the more challenging emotions that are associated with home as well.
Yes. Because my idea is to present home as a paradox. Mm-hmm. It's a place where we have all these emotions and all these experiences at the same time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that is the reason it's like this in-betweenness, or maybe this like trying to approach like every emotion in a way, yes.
And in fact, you have these 3 drawings, and I noticed the quality of the line. It's a very, it flows, even though it does have these moments of clashing or of intersection. For the most part, the quality of the line is one of flowing. And yet, there's a drawing within kind of this time period in this series that has a very different quality to it. And I'd like us to walk over there and look at it, because even though ostensibly it's basically the same description, right?
Yeah.
It's these line drawings, these topographical drawings on Mylar, the quality of the line is vastly different.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about how that came about.
Well, the difference between that one and this one are the place where I was and the moment in time. When I did that one, I was relaxed, in peace, enjoying my African adventure, just by myself, my husband, then relax. And then suddenly we got into a plane and get back to Houston.
Because of the pandemic.
Because of the pandemic. And then back to Houston, then at home I have my son, my daughter, and my nephew with us, and then my parents-in-law with us.
So everybody was doing quarantine together?
Yes. Well, with my parents-in-law, they were like just
coming and going.
Yes,
okay.
yes. But mostly with my son, my husband, my nephew, my daughter, and myself, because then my daughter was in Boston and then she came back. Everybody
is lovely, but everybody together.
Exactly. Everybody working, like my husband, my son working from home, and my daughter and my nephew are studying from home. So it's like crazy, pandemonium. So I wasn't able, of course, to work in the studio because we were confined. So I was working in my living room with a portable table with everything happening around. So then this drawing happened, and then I must confess at the beginning, I just noticed this when the show was on, that somebody came, and so I could look the difference between the drawings there, Okay, yes, I can perceive the emotions, the different emotion I have.
Look at that. I mean, and I like those drawings. I find these moments really, really interesting. They draw me in, and they really want me to look closely.
Yeah.
And just how tight and close a lot of these lines are, and also just how they converge is very different from the other drawings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then there's also another difference here. You cut into the mylar.
Yes, trying to tell a little of about neighborhood, and like kind of we were all near in the neighborhood, but everyone was in their space.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to tell a little a little about the isolation, and that is the reason I just put these few homes there,
Mm-hmm.
and there is nothing else.
So it's isolated.
Isolated, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. And so these little houses connect with the cutting of the earlier drawings,
Yeah.
right? Cutting into the paper, folding,
Yes.
creating this three-dimensional quality to a drawing. And it also brings us to these other works,
Yes.
which are actual three-dimensional constructions of the home.
The home. Yes.
Uh-huh.
While I was at home, like in confinement, I did a series of these drawings, and also I started working in some mock-ups of how, like, the structures, the houses, with the papers I have. So I started experimenting with spray paint, and now they became mock-ups. So finally, when I was able to get back to my studio, then okay, I started working on the plexiglass structures, and for them, well, you can see how I bring the line work of the topographies from the drawings to the sculptural pieces. For me, they belong to the same series that is like that cover, like these topographies of a place to know.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, because these structures more than represent the physical shape of a house, that I choose it on purpose, because when you ask a child to draw a house or a home, they don't have difference. They just draw the basic.
Yes, this is very
shape.
identifiable.
Exactly.
I mean, like I said, it's like an icon. It's
Exactly. But
everybody recognizes this as a
But
house.
for me, it's more like a metaphorical way to talk about home,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about feelings, and it's about experiences, and it's like more a psychological way to talk about what home means for us.
And so that drawing and the line work and the colors that you're using, that's where you're bringing in kind of the emotional aspect.
Yes.
And as I look around, I notice that each one of the houses has its own character, its own kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And you did that on purpose.
I did on
Very
purpose.
specific.
Yes.
So with this house, I see it's kind of rainbow color. It gradually changes from purples to reds to yellows, or from greens back up to the yellows. And I see these little. It's not solid. It's this checkerboard
Yes.
of color and line. Tell me a little bit about that.
Where this is the home of Joyce, and I wanted to represent like the lightness of and the joy that means to share with family. Like in my case, like was a traumatic moment just to be confined, but then counting blessings that we were able, like at least to be together and enjoy them, because like my son was already living in his apartment, and because confinement, then he stayed with us. And my daughter was living in Boston, and then she came back. So it was like I was welcoming them, and that is the reason, that is the emotion I feel that all the challenges that this time to represent, that was a blessing, just to have them at home with us.
Yeah.
No? So that is the way I wanted to have like different colors and like the lines and like going up, like of lifting, like happy.
It does.
Like
It feels
happy.
very, very airy. And I noticed the shadows that it cast, light and shadow. That is absolutely something that you've worked with before. And tell me a little bit about why you focus on light and shadow. What is it?
It's because with my work, I want like to bring, like when people see them, like to bring like wonder and maybe to inspire and get surprised and like that. And also because of course they will, like the shadows, they will move depending of the lighting in the room. It's about movement, and it's the movement that represent for me all the changes that we have, like all these, maybe the impermanence of home. So that is the reason for me the light and the colors and the shadows are so much like so important, because I want also talk about movement.
Yeah, and it connects to the ideas about the river, right?
Yeah.
It's never the same river. It's always changing. Same here. And actually, one of the qualities that I like about owning something like this and living with it is that the light probably changes more than when you're in a gallery where the lighting is fixed.
Yes.
But if you have it in your home, you know, depending on the morning or the evening, or whether lights are on or off, you are going to see it change.
They are alive. They are alive, like we are alive.
Yeah.
Like home, changing and evolving all the time. Yes.
Yeah. So let's look at another one, just so that we can see kind of the differences between the different houses. Tell me a little bit about kind of the emotions, maybe with these three over here.
Okay, with the black one is black and blue inside. The title is I Wish You Were Here, and it's about loss and absence. That because of course I focus more on the emotions of home now after the pandemic, because and that is the reason that they are part of the topography is a place to know, because it's the emotional topography. There were all these emotions that we discovered as being confined at home with the another people that maybe could be a family, or maybe, you know, some people get confined with friends, or and then these different emotions appear. So that is the reason they are under this umbrella of the topographies of a place to know. And of course, we, during the pandemic, I believe everyone has a history of losing someone or being separated, because we weren't able to connect with another relative living maybe next door.
Yeah, and the loss wasn't only just losing people, not that that isn't enough, but losing possibilities, right? The possibility of traveling, or of going out and working in your workplace, or whatever it is. I mean, there was so much loss. I mean, we're still dealing with it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is about loss. The green one
is about nature. And the title is I can smell the forest and see the sky, and it's about, of course, it's like an homage to nature and how we start valuing the nature around us after being confined. So many people start looking for a home experience, living in nature or enjoying nature, with the necessity to connect to nature, to our earth. So that is the reason I decided, also because it's part of this emotion, everything that awakes in us when we are in contact with nature.
Yes, and I know that, at least for me and a lot of the people I know, going out, was like the saving grace. It was the one thing. It was like, okay, I can go out to the park and I can walk, or I can go to the Arboretum and take a walk, or wherever it was, being outside and really connecting with nature was heightened. Like that experience was heightened because we were slowing down and confined. Yeah. And so you've got nature on the outside, but you've also got it on the inside. And I really there are some of the houses where the line work is transparent or translucent, and you can see it from one surface, from the inside and the outside. And then I've noticed with some of the other ones, which I really like this about your work, you invite us to come in and look and peek in and kind of be voyeurs a little bit. But for example, this house, the line drawings on the interior are very different from the line drawings on the exterior.
Yes.
And that's a very beautiful surprise. I really appreciate that. It's a nice little gift that you give.
And then you have the addition of the shadows.
And then the shadows on the bottom surface is fascinating and really, really lovely. Yeah. Now, I've noticed that some of these you have assembled and attached using zip ties, and some of them are maybe glued. And I'm just wondering why that difference? Why did you choose to use zip ties? Is it a conceptual idea or a conceptual idea? That's redundant. But is it conceptual, or was it more aesthetic, or was it really a practical thing? Or a little bit of everything?
For them, was a combination. Was a combination of both. Because I wanted to have the feeling that these are stitched.
Oh, stitch, like you're sewing it together.
Sewing them together. Talking about putting together our thoughts, our memories, everything that represents home for us. So it's like kind of this process of trying to put them together. And of course, the practical way is because, of course, I cannot use here the traditional thread to put them together.
Right, so structurally it wouldn't allow you to.
Yeah, so I became with another solution that is a material that I had used before also in another school. So for me, it's also a familiar material, like kind of, I start looking around my studio, okay, what
do I
can
have?
I use? Exactly.
Now, it's also temporary. I can, like with zip ties, they're firm and they hold, but all you need is a little scissor and clip, and so there's this sense of impermanence that I get. And did you intend for that to be the case?
And many of my larger sculpture, because then we will talk about the smaller one, they have this possibility that you can disassemble them and reassemble. If not that you will do it, because you won't do it.
No.
But it's just having this possibility, like having this open. And talking about open, all these houses are open underneath.
The bottom is
in the bottom they are open, because I wanted to talk about the impermanence of these emotions, like the evolving condition of the home. So that is the reason they are open.
Okay.
Like they can be moved. They are not root, because this constant change of home in us translate with emotions.
Yeah. And the one last point about the zip ties, which is that I noticed that some of them on the interior, you've cut the zip ties close, and then on the others, you have left the zip tie tail long, and they kind of feel almost like horns or
Exactly. That yes, that is something I wanted. Like you will see like in the happy homes, they are like mostly cooked.
They're trimmed and
They are
cut.
trimmed. And then is another one that maybe represent more challenges for us. Then I keep them.
Then you keep them long. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we've talked about loss and we've talked about confinement. You don't shy away from the difficult, and I was hoping that maybe we could talk briefly about this house that's spinning on its base, and you could tell us a little bit about it, because for those who are not here looking at it, it's very similar in many ways to the other houses that we've discussed, except some of the very pointed differences are this one is entirely closed. There is not an opening, whereas all of the other houses have openings that either look like windows and doors or that, resemble leaves or flames or something like that. Here we don't have that. And the color, it shifts, right?
Yeah.
We start with this gold, and then as it moves around, you get introduced to this red, but then you've got this really deep blue, and I'm curious to know what this is all about.
Well, the title is still here.
Okay.
It's about confinement. It's about this sensation of being enclosed. And my idea with the colors and rotating is like you are going from day to night, all way around, just going around.
And 24/7.
24/7. So that, and you can see, of course, the terms of the challenging.
Yes, and these zip ties are black too,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So there's so much more kind of a darkness to it, and then of course the spinning. I think that's really interesting. I also noticed that there are some imperfections, and that you as an artist have chosen to leave those imperfections in there.
Yes.
And that's not. I mean, some artists choose to do that and some don't. And so I'm curious as to why you chose to leave those imperfections in.
Because, well, you can see the another ones, they look more perfect. In this one, it's because I can imagine myself there trying to get out, so for me, this is like talking about this, the challenging, like reinforcing this moment of being there in close, like with this imperfection, it's like reinforce it.
Yeah.
Maybe that if I do it like a nice finish perfectly, it won't be the same. Like the message won't be the same.
Right, because distress is actually embodied in this object.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
And I think it's really fabulous. I like that a lot myself. And okay, so we've got these, and then we've got these smaller houses also. So tell me just a tiny bit about them.
Okay, you can see the houses, they have different roof than the other ones, and the finish is different. With them, I decided, because they are smaller ones, they are like more portable also. So it was like, with them I can like kind of glue them together, and aesthetically they look better. Because of course, putting something this in a smaller piece also won't look nice.
Right, so the zip ties just take up more visual space.
Exactly. So, and also the change on the use of the roof. This is a material I have used also before. This is acrylic. These are like plascolite. These are the acrylic panels they use for the lighting, the fluorescent lighting.
Oh, okay.
And my idea was to have them to allow to get more light into the structure, because of course there are smaller structures.
Right.
If I cover them like that one, the light won't go
Then you
through.
don't have that. And I love light play, the way that they cast shadows on the wall, that is really beautiful. And of course, the roof, that textured quality looks like shingles,
Yeah,
roof shingles.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a nice little metaphor there. But yeah, I find these shadows really
And these
interesting.
are yes, totally part of the piece.
And
Yes.
now, when you conceived of the houses, did you think of them as individuals, or are they a pairs? Like, is this one work, or is it two works that you displayed
These
together?
are two work that they are displayed together.
Okay.
And in this case, I wanted to have them at least in pairs, because this series, the smaller ones, the series is El Saladillo,
Saladillo.
is the name of a neighborhood in Maracaibo where they celebrate tradition, and they have these colorful houses that they are like next to the another one, like they
One right next to the other, like townhouses.
Yes, all together. So it's like having them like that is my way, like to represent that they are partying, like they are together in that way. I'm also elongated and like just to tell like that, you know,
Yeah, so it's a more literal translation of those houses.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. And then finally, we come to this grid over here.
Yes.
It's a grid of drawings, right? They're drawings because we've been looking at houses. When I come up to it, these stitched drawings read as houses. Tell me a little bit about this grid and what's that?
Well, this is the series of Home as a Paradox.
Okay.
And my idea was to have like a compilation of all these emotions and experiences and memories and all these stuff that we bring with us, like we call home.
Yeah.
And that is the reason I get back to the stitching also, and get back to the paper also when I did it, because it's about stitching the memories, stitching the thought, like putting together all these various or variety of experiences.
Emotions.
Yes, exactly. And the missing one, it could be the emotion that is coming, like yes, it's
The
like
unknown,
the
the yet
unknown.
to be experienced.
Exactly.
I see. And so these are drawings also on Mylar, and then you've stitched into them.
Yes, yeah.
And so when you were doing them, they feel like they're little meditations.
Yeah.
And were you thinking of something specific as you were doing each one, or were you kind of making them and then kind of assigning emotion to them
And
history?
with them, because okay, when I was working on the 3D, I was working on my studio, like kind of more focus on working on each one. When I decided to work with them, something happened in our family. We have some health issues with a few family members.
Right.
So I was kind of, not forced, invited to get back home and work again from the living room with my portable table. So and then I like, okay, now I need to adapt again to this new situation at home. Like that is the reason I say the variety of emotions. And then it's like I did it as a necessity for me, just to sit them there and stop and just this meditation process. In this case, it was a way to try to disconnect myself of like everything that was happening around me. So, and then that is the reason is home as a paradox, because it's like when you are meditating is when you start thinking about all this emotion, everything, all the experiences that you have been going through. Yeah. So that is why I went back to drawings and this stitching, that I start working on the stitching here, and then I get back with the stitching here.
Yeah, these have a very intimate feeling to them, right? They invite you in. they're framed by these frames that are kind of shadow boxes,
Yeah.
and they really do invite you to come in and look carefully,
Yeah.
individually, and consider each one on its own.
Yes. And that is the last body of work I did for the exhibition. It's
Well,
like-
congratulations!
Yeah.
This is a really beautiful exhibition, and I really like the trajectory that you're on. I think the way that your work is evolving from the work that I got to know you with to this, it feels really solid, and it's also really beautiful. The quality of the line and the way that you invite us to consider what home is. Is it something external to us? Is it something internal to us? Both with the drawings and the 3D objects, it really does prompt us to consider these questions. And what's interesting about your artwork is you don't give us an answer. You leave it open, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to have this conversation with you. It's always a joy to share ideas with you. Thanks.
And thank you for being here tonight. I really enjoy just to share with you all that everything that is behind of the work. Yes.
Yes, it's a privilege. Thank you. Bye.